my computer is behaving in a funny way. Yeah. So, what Srivendra is describing is the chapter is indeterminates and cosmic determinations. At the highest level, the absolute reality is without any limitations, without any features, and totally, therefore, indeterminate. Indeterminate means when you determine something, you define it. You give it is like this. It is small. It is weighing so much. It is of this color. It has got this form. That is a determination. But when you go to the highest level, okay, there is absolutely nothing that determines it, that limits it, that describes it. Okay. And it is because it is infinite and all the possibilities are in it, it has necessarily logically to be absolutely indeterminable. Not only indeterminate, but indeterminable. You can't give any, ascribe any quality to it. It is beyond all qualities and quantities. So the problem is which is the origin. In the same also with matter. When you are looking at matter, matter is producing life and matter is producing. So he is going. The problem in the physical world is where is this physical world coming from? Where have I come from? Who has created this universe? These are the three main questions of all philosophical inquiry. Okay. Everybody wants to know this. Those who think a little bit want to know from where has this universe come? Who has made it? So, as you keep going higher and higher in consciousness, Ravindra has been describing, the mind cannot know. So, let put beyond the mind. Then you go to the higher mind. There also, you can't get because the truth seems to be the absolute unknowable. It's absolutely featureless. So, then you go even higher up. And Ravindra says, when you go to the overmind level also, now you know much more and you understand much more. But still, the problem is there that whether matter is the ultimate reality or something even higher than overmind. Okay? So, even overmind is not solving your problem. And what is the problem? Who is the creator of all this? What is the last reality? What is the ultimate reality? Which is the last point from which everything originates? That's the question. Okay? So, we read the para. I don't remember if we have read the para or we have to read it. Yes.
We have to read it.
Okay, so one of you start reading. Okay, Sunki has not read for a long time. So,
Okay.
Sunki, do you read today? It's a 2
Yes.
p.m.
Yes, I will read.
Okay, then we'll decide. We'll look at the para entirely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Overmind then gives us no final and positive solution. It is in a supramental cognition beyond it that we are left to seek for an answer. A supramental truth consciousness is at once the self-awareness of the infinite and eternal and a power of self-determination inherent in that self-awareness. The first is its foundation and status. The second is its power of being, the dynamics of its self-existence. All that a timeless eternity of self-awareness sees in itself as a truth of being, the conscious power of its being manifest in time eternity. To supermind, therefore, a supreme is that a rigid indeterminable is not a rigid indeterminable, an all negating absolute, an infinite of a being complete to itself in its own immutable purity of existence. Its sole power, or pure consciousness, able only to dwell on the being's changeless eternity, on the immobile delight of its sheer self-existence, is not the whole reality. The infinite of a being must also be an infinite of a power, containing in itself an eternal repose and quiescence. It must also be capable of an eternal action and creation. But this too must be an action in itself, a creation out of its own self eternal and infinite, since there could be nothing else out of which it could create. Any basis of creation seeming to be other than itself must be still really in itself, and of itself, and could not be something foreign to its existence. An infinite power cannot be solely a force resting in a pure inactive sameness, an immutable quiescence. It must have in it endless powers of its being and energy. An infinite consciousness must hold within it endless truth of its own self-awareness. These in action would appear to our cognition as aspects of its being, to our spiritual sense as powers and movements of its dynamics, to our aesthetics as instrument and formulations of its delight of existence. Creation would then be a self-manifestation. It would be an ordered deploying of the infinite possibilities of the infinite. But every possibility implies a truth of being behind it, a reality in existence. For without that supporting truth, there could not be any possibles. In manifestation, a fundamental reality of the existent would appear to our cognition as a fundamental spiritual aspect of the divine absolute. Out of it would emerge all its possible manifestations, its innate dynamisms. These again must create or bring out of a non-manifest latency their own significant forms, expressive powers, native processes. Their own being would develop their own becoming, svarupa, svabhava. This then would be the complete process of creation. But in our mind, we do not see the complete process. We see only possibilities that determine themselves into actualities, and though we infer or conjecture, we are not sure of a necessity, a predetermining truth, an imperative behind them, which capacitates the possibilities, decides the actualities. Our mind is an observer of actuals, an inventor or discoverer of possibilities, but not a seer of the occult imperatives that necessitate the movements and forms of a creation. For in front of the universal existence, there are only forces determining results by some balance of the meeting of their powers. The original determinant, if it or they exist, are veiled from us by our ignorance. But to the supramental truth consciousness, these imperatives would be apparent, would be the very stuff of its seeing and experience. In the supramental creative process, the imperatives, the nexus of possibilities, the resultant actualities would be a single whole on indivisible movements. The possibilities and actualities would carry in themselves the inevitability of their originating imperative. Thoughts. All their creation would be the body of the truth which they manifest in predetermined significant forms and powers of the all existence.
Quite a big para. So what we'll do, and quite complicated also. So what we'll do, first we will get the basic idea by summarizing the para. Then we will go into details. Okay, because details are very interesting. Okay, so I am going to read out to you the summary of this para so that you have a general idea of what he is saying, and then we will go into details. Now, he's saying in this para, the overmind consciousness cannot give us the solution that we are seeking. Okay, and what is the solution we are seeking? We are trying to understand the origin of things. Okay, where has all this come from? So, the truth has to be found in the plane above the overmind, which is the supermind. So, since it is not giving us the overmind is not giving us a solution, we have to look elsewhere. We have to go on looking elsewhere. We have noticed very clearly that as you keep rising in consciousness, you understand more and more. So therefore, if overmind is not giving you enough understanding, you have to go higher up, not lower down, but higher up, because we have seen that there is an evolution. Okay, So naturally you have to go higher up. So it's like climbing a mountain, okay? At a midway mountain, you can't see everything around you, but you feel that if you go to the top, you'll be able to see everything. So exactly in that way, you keep looking. And so he's saying that there should be something which is above the overmind, which is the supermind. Okay, that's what he has done. Then he says, the supermind is a plane where the oppositions disappear. How do they know this? By experience. Okay, it's by experience that he knows. The supermind is a plane where the oppositions disappear. By the way, you should know one thing, that even if for 1 second you have a touch of the supermind, your understanding becomes very clear permanently. This is what also one very interesting one boy came to me in Pondicherry and he told me that for just a few seconds I went out of my body and the amount of knowledge that I had was unbelievable. I can understand 10,000 times more than what I understand in the mind. Okay, and that stays with you. So therefore, when Sri Aurobindo is not achieving the supermind, but realizing the supermind even in small bits, his consciousness rises into the supermind, experiences things, then comes down again. So this is how he knows what the supermind is all about. Okay? The supermind is a plane where the oppositions disappear. In other words, no more dualities. So, and become complementaries. Then you realize that darkness and light are complementaries. You realize that generosity and miserliness are complementaries. They are not opposites. Okay? They are two ends of the same spectrum. Okay? That's what he's saying. Everything is like that. Action and inaction. Status and action. So that is also the same thing. Okay? So two ends of the same spectrum. That's what he's saying. Status and dynamics are not contraries. Impersonal and personal are not contraries. Immutable and mutable are not contraries. They are all aspects, two poles of the same reality. This is what you realize in the supermind consciousness. In the overmind consciousness, remember, multiplicity is the principle. So you see all the possibilities and they have the full right to manifest themselves fully, all the opposites. That's why you have dualities in the physical world. And both are all are necessary. In the physical world, dualities are all valid. Okay? That's an interesting thing you have to see because there each one has got its right to be what it is. Okay? Kindness and cruelty are also just nothing but the two opposite poles of the same reality. But they are not opposite, they are complementary aspects. So they are all aspects, two poles of the same reality. But as our mind is a half-developed consciousness and is ignorance, it does not see the reality. It sees only the end results, the forms in the universe. It sees the opposites. The supermind, on the contrary, sees the origin of the universe and understands the total harmony from which all the forms in the cosmos originate. So now you have found the source of our existence. It's the supermind. The one issues out of itself, into itself, all the many that are latent in it. Now note that the supermind is creating out of itself, it's giving birth to something, okay? But that out of itself is in itself only. There is nothing else except that, the reality. In itself, out of itself, into itself, all the many that are latent in it. The universe is nothing but a self-expression of the supreme reality. So it is not that it is creating things which does not exist. It is creating only, it is manifesting things which are already there in it. Just like the seed which contains all the possibilities of the tree and it manifests them. It is already there in essence and it manifests. This is what he is saying in the para. Okay? Clear? So, point number one, you go to the supermind, now you know the origin of everything. Okay? You know from where you have come, you know from where the universe has come, and what is its features? It is total harmony. There are no oppositions. All the multiplicities that are there in the overmind consciousness are absolutely, they are coming from the same source. That's the thing. Yeah, it's the water behind the dam which is absolutely silent, which when released becomes the vast, the tremendous um, flood that comes out of the dam. So this is what Sridhar is saying. Idea is clear. Now we know from where the universe is coming and what are its features. It is contains all the possibilities. It is itself featureless but contains all the possibilities. So now we can go back to the beginning of the para. Okay, so I think the summary makes it clear what he's saying. But he goes into great detail because he is extremely logical and he will be answering every objection that a very analytical mind can come up with. So now we go back to the first sentence. Overmind then gives us no final or positive solution. Why? Because we see that it is creating oppositions. Okay? And it is not telling us from where all these oppositions are coming. So we have to look for it higher up. It is in a supramental cognition beyond it that we are left to seek for an answer. Not the word we are left. We don't know the higher, but we can come to the conclusion that there must be something even higher than that. Okay? That we are left to seek for an answer. Then a supramental truth consciousness, if we find it, this is what it is. A supramental truth consciousness is at once the self-awareness of the infinite and eternal and a power of self-determination inherent in that self-awareness. Let's try and understand what he's saying in this sentence. First of all, it is supramental. It is a truth consciousness. It is not something imagined. It's a reality, absolute reality. Supramental truth consciousness is at once the self-awareness of the infinite and eternal. It is fully aware of itself. There is no ignorance there at all. It is fully aware of itself. All the possibilities inside it and all the possibilities that is going to manifest. Self-awareness, okay? And eternal. Self-awareness at our level, sometimes we are self-aware. In this sense that, yes, I have a desire and I note that it is in my. So I am aware of my own desires. I am aware that there is anger in me. I am aware that there is a desire in me. So self-awareness. But it is very, very limited. We don't know 100,000 times things which are there in me, I don't know. But this self-awareness of Superman, it knows every damn thing. Not a single thing is left out. Okay? Of the infinite and eternal. And also what is it? Is it only awareness? Is it only consciousness? No, it's also a power. Okay? And a power of self-determination. And what is that power? It can make itself into any form it wants. That's what it means by self-determination. It can take its material and mold itself into anything it wants to. That's what it means. Okay? Power of self-determination. It can do whatever it wants with its own being, its own substance. Inherent in that self-awareness. So, inherent in the self-awareness, it is not that consciousness is there and power is there separately waiting in the supermind. They are one. That's what he's saying, inherent. They are not separate, they are one. The consciousness itself is substance and it is also power. Okay? So, it is inherent, it's not separate. So, now he goes on to the first is the foundation and status. The first is the consciousness, self-awareness. The first is foundation and status. Status, silence. It's knowledge. Knowledge is not dynamic. It is full of knowledge. The second is its power of being, the dynamics of its self-existence. The second is Shakti. So there is Chit and there is Shakti. This is what he's saying in this bag, self-existence. 1 second. Self-existence. So he is describing the Chit and Shakti in the supermind. So in other words, supermind has got the consciousness as well as the power. Okay? So at our level, our consciousness does not always give us power, and our power also is very often not conscious of what it can do and what cannot do. That's why we make mistakes. Okay? A dictator has got all power, but he often makes a mistake. Doesn't do what is correct. Okay. All that timeless eternity, all that timeless eternity of self-awareness sees in itself as truth of being, the conscious power of its being manifests in time eternity. So what he's saying is, although Chit and Shakti are the same, there is consciousness and there is power, but what the consciousness sees in itself, that, oh, I can produce this, the power produces it. What I can see in myself, that I can do this, the power produces it immediately. That's what he's saying. It's a process. Process of creation is two. It is Purusha and Prakriti coming together. It's consciousness and power coming together. If only one of them is there, there can be no creation. Okay. If only consciousness is there, it remains abstract. It doesn't belong. But if power is there, only power is there, it can create, but it can't create meaningful things. So when the two are there, consciousness as well as power, it creates. It creates everything. This is the basis of all creation. All that timeless eternity of self-awareness sees in itself as truth of being. I can see that I can produce this, I can produce that, and my power is going to produce it immediately. It's not that you decide and then the power does it. It is simultaneous. It comes immediately. The conscious power of his being manifests in time eternity. That which is knowledge and status is outside time. Okay? But this is in time eternity. That which is outside time and space comes down and becomes a fact in time and space. Time and space is our physical world. To supermind, therefore, the Supreme is not a rigid indeterminable. Okay? The Supreme is not a rigid indeterminable and all negative absolute. Now we have to understand this very well, because some philosophers say it's an absolute negation. It is not a negation. It is, yes, it is itself without features, but that does not limit its capacity to create features. That's what he's saying. Okay. It's a seeming negation. It's a seeming negation. If you think of a good example of that would be an ocean, absolutely transparent water, going infinitely in all directions without any movement at all, totally transparent. If you look at it, you will say, there's nothing in it. That's how the Buddhists see it. But if you see more carefully, you will see that, oh, it contains everything in it, but it is not manifesting. For manifesting, it has the power to manifest everything. And it is featureless because if there are features, its capacity to produce will be limited. So therefore, there is absolutely infinite and absolute no features at all, but there is a capacity to create all features. This is the important step. To supermind, therefore, the Supreme is not and rigid indeterminable. It can be understood, it can be realized, and all negative absolute. It is not an emptiness, it's a fullness which is without features. An infinite of being, complete to itself in its own immutable purity of existence. Immutable purity of existence, you can experience also the nirvana consciousness even at the higher mind level. Immutable purity. Immutable suggests no action, absolute static condition. Purity suggests oneness. There is nothing else. It's absolutely one. Because if it is impure, then there will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there is only one. It's wherever you go, it's only one. So it is purity of existence. Its sole power, what about the power? Its sole power, a pure consciousness able only to dwell on the being's changeless eternity, on the immobile delight of its sheer self-existence. So, in other words, there is consciousness, there is power, but there is also delight. Okay, there is also, so you come back to the formula of Sat Chit Ananda. Okay, so that's what it is describing. Immobile delight. At the highest level, it is immobile delight. But when it comes down to the physical world, it becomes very, very mobile delight. All our pleasures are very, very mobile. Okay, it goes on changing from one thing to another. Out of sharing is not the whole reality. So only dwell on the change, on the immobile delight of sheer existence is not the whole reality. So that last bit we have to understand is not the whole reality. What is that? I go back to the beginning of the sentence, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines above. To supermind, therefore, the supreme is not a rigid indeterminable. It is not the whole reality. If you say it is an indeterminable, it is not the whole reality because it can create everything. In other words, he is saying, I don't agree with the Buddhistic and the Mayavada theory that the ultimate reality is featureless. I can't agree with that. That's what he is basically saying. Okay. To supermind, therefore, the supreme is not a rigid indeterminable. In other words, you can never know it. Okay. And all negative absolute. If it is negation, you can't know the negative things. So it is not like that. It can know it, he said. An infinite of being, complete to itself in its own immutable purity of existence, its sole power, a pure consciousness able only to dwell on the being's changeless eternity, on the immobile delight of its sheer self-existence, is not the whole reality. It is seeming to be indeterminable, but it is very, very experienceable. That's what he said. The infinite of being must also be an infinite of power, containing in itself an eternal repose and quiescence. Now, if you are very, very intellectually alert and analytical in your mind, you will say, how do you know that? Okay. So again, it's a question of experience. Okay. You can't argue against experience. The infinite of being must also be an infinite of power. If you are logical, you will say, how do you say must be? How do you know that? It need not be. Consciousness can be quite different from power. Why should it be the same? You can argue. But experience tells you that it is the same. Okay? The infinite of being must also be an infinite of power. This is the reason why there are many who feel that life divine is not a philosophy. And that is true in this sense that it's not philosophy based on logic. It is philosophy based on experience. And that's the whole thing about about Indian philosophy. All Indian philosophy is based on experience. All the Upanishads, okay? There's no logic there. There's absolutely experience. So, if you want to argue, you can argue. But the Upanishad stands and Srindo's life divine stands because it's based on experience. The infinite of being must also be an infinite of power, containing itself an eternal repose and quiescence. Both, it contains both. Okay? Eternal repose and quiescence. It must also be capable of an eternal action and creation. It contains both. Okay? Just now we saw that there are two poles of the same thing, dynamism and status. But this too must be an action in itself, not outside itself, in itself. A creation out of its own self, eternal and infinite, since there could be nothing else out of which it can create. Why is that? Because we have started by the hypothesis of Advaita. We have started with the hypothesis and now we are finding in the supermind the justification for the hypothesis. So our hypothesis is justified and proved by experience. That's what he's saying. Okay? So it can be nothing else. Any basis of creation seeming to be other than itself must be still really in itself and of itself and could not be something foreign to its existence. So whatever the supermind is creating is its own stuff and it is creating in itself. In other words, the whole thing, the whole universe is contained within itself. And that's the experience you can have in the cosmic consciousness. When you have the cosmic consciousness, you realize that the whole universe is within you. Okay? You are the creator. You can have that experience. So, clear must still be really in itself and of itself. It must be in itself and of itself, its own material, it is creating forms. Okay? Could not be something foreign to its existence because there is nothing else except that. An infinite power cannot be solely a force resting in a pure inactive sameness. an immutable quiescence. It must have in it endless powers of its being and energy. An infinite consciousness must hold within it endless truths of its own self-awareness. All these statements are based on experience. An infinite consciousness must hold. When you say must hold, you will say, why do you say must hold? Okay? It need not hold. I can think of a consciousness which cannot hold. But this is why it is experience. It is true at the lower level. A consciousness need not hold truths of its own self-awareness, as in our case. No? I am conscious, I have consciousness, but I don't see all the truths. But there it is there. In the supermind, consciousness holds in itself all the endless truths. These in action would appear to our cognition as aspects of its being, to our spiritual sense as powers and movements of its dynamics, to our aesthesis as instruments and formulations of its delight of existence. When he's using the word action, he is referring to the aspects of being is the sat, okay? Then sense, when he's using the word spiritual sense, he is talking of chit shakti, sense, powers and movements. And finally, when he's talking of aesthesis, he's talking of the ananda. So at our level, we can experience these three in a very, very diluted manner. Okay. Creation then, creation means the universe. We were wondering from where it has come, now we know. Creation would then be a self-manifestation. It's not something that is created and gets separated from it. It is its own, like the poet creating a poem. Creation would then be a self-manifestation. It would be an ordered deploying of the infinite possibilities of the infinite. Note the word deploy. Okay, deploy is a very interesting word. when you have an army and you decide how to attack, you deploy your forces. Put some forces here, put some forces there, put some forces there. You're deploying, but this deploying is ordered. There's a logic to it. There's a meaning and a purpose to it. That's what ordered deploying means. Infinite possibilities of the infinite. So the supermind is the origin of the universe, and it has got consciousness and power, and it is creating in itself, out of its own substance and its own power and consciousness, the universe. So therefore the universe is nothing but already what is inside it. It is only manifesting. It's not creating something new. It's only bringing out what is latent within it. But what are the things which are latent in it? Infinite. You can go on creating infinitely. The seed cannot create infinitely. It only creates what is there in it. So the seed is a representation of the supermind in a very limited manner. Okay? Because the seed can only produce what is there in it, and it produces only that. But the supermind is an infinite seed. It's a seed which can create infinite things. Okay? That's the difference. So now it goes on. But every possibility implies a truth of being behind it. In other words, whatever plan you make in your mind can be made into a reality. Okay? It's not that you have an imagination which will never become a reality. Every possibility implies a truth of being behind. Okay? That's all. At 400 years ago, man thought that he was able to fly in the air. Now he is flying. At one time, you thought that you could never go to the moon. Now you are going to the moon. Today, the idea is that I can go to Mars and settle there. Day after tomorrow, it will become a fact. Okay. So every possibility implies a truth of being behind it, a reality in the existence. For without that supporting truth, there could not be any possibles. If my imagination is not supported by truth behind, my imagination can never become a reality. But everything that I can imagine, there is a reality behind it, and therefore it becomes possible to realize it. In manifestation, in the physical world, a fundamental reality of the existence would appear to our cognition as a fundamental spiritual aspect of the divine absolute. Out of it would emerge all its possible manifestations. Okay. In manifestation, in the physical world, the fundamental reality of the existent, okay, the existent is the uh, Sat. Actually, it would correspond to Sat, but in the physical world, it is matter. And in matter, matter can produce everything that is contained in it. To our cognition, is a fundamental spiritual aspect of the divine absolute. When he speaks of existent, he is meaning the divine, the personal divine. Existence is the impersonal divine. Okay. And out of it would emerge all its possible manifestations, its innate dynamisms, whatever is there already. Innate, the word innate, inherent, if you want, you can use the same word. These again must create, or rather bring out of a non-manifest latency, their own significant forms, expressive powers, native processes. This is what is described in the indeterminable goes on creating, determinates of itself. This we have examined in great detail. Life, for instance, produces certain determinations. Okay, there are vertebrates and invertebrates, and the vertebrates are the determination of life. The invertebrates are determinations of life. But vertebrates are themselves the indeterminate form of all the other things that will come out of it. Okay? So, exactly in the same way, man has divided the vertebrates into 5 categories. He has divided the invertebrates into 8 categories, but there can be many more which we have not categorized. Okay, so that's what it is. So, in manifestation, the fundamental reality would appear to our cognition as a fundamental spiritual aspect of the divine absolute. Out of it would emerge all the possible manifestations, its innate dynamisms. These again must create, or rather bring out of a non-manifest latency, their own significant forms. Again, you can give yourself the image of a huge amount of clay, which is determinate in a certain sense because it's got color and substance. But pots and pans are not yet manifested. So it can bring out of that its significant forms, expressive powers, native processes. Okay? Their own being would develop their own becoming Swarupa and Swabhava. Swarupa, its own form. The form that is there in the blueprint becomes a reality in the physical world. Swabhava, same thing, nature. If something is determined that this will have this type of nature, it will have these features, it becomes a reality here. This then would be the complete process of creation. So, creation comes from the supermind and it is created, possible to create because it has got substance, sat, it has got consciousness, chit, and it's got Shakti, power. Therefore, it creates. This is the complete process of creation. But in our mind, all this we are seeing by experience in the supermind. But can we see all this in our mind? Now he is saying that. Okay? He says, where is it gone? But in our mind, we do not see the complete process. We see only possibilities that determine themselves into actualities. And though we infer or conjecture, we are not sure of a necessity, a predetermining truth, an imperative behind them which capacitates the possibilities decides the actualities. If you read the life of many saints, okay, they can see much more than we can. Okay? So we don't see the reality, total reality. But those who are at a higher level of consciousness see many realities and they can warn you not to do this, not to do that. I'll give you just 2-3 examples. One, I am standing on a crossing and I am standing on the main road, but the perpendicular road coming from there, a car is coming at full speed like mad, it is coming. Now, I don't see the possibility of any accident because I am not aware of that coming. I am not seeing the whole. So I am standing and an accident occurs and you say, oh my God, an accident has occurred. Now, suppose that same man is standing on the terrace of the same crossing. Okay. Now he can see both. He can see the road in front and he can see the perpendicular road. And when he sees that fellow coming at full speed, he knows that there is going to be an accident. The possibility of an accident becomes a reality for him. Why? Because he's at a higher level. Physically, even when you are at a higher level, you see much more. So this is what is being said. At our level, we don't see because we don't see everything. But as you keep climbing higher and higher in consciousness, you start seeing possibilities which are there. And if you have the power, you can, even gurus tell people. I've been reading things about Sai Baba, how he warned some people not to do certain things. But they did it and there were consequences. Okay. So this is what is being said. So they tell you not to do this, not to do that. Okay. I'll tell you some interesting things also how mother had told at least two people I know. Okay, I'll tell you the two cases. They are all both in the ashram. In one case, I think Sri Aurobindo told one gentleman not to marry. Okay, don't get married. But he went ahead and got married. And the result was that out of his 6 or 7 children, 2 or 3 were not normal. Okay, so that possibility was seen by Sri Aurobindo and told him not to do it. Okay, another case is there also where, in this case, mother told someone not to get married. Okay, but the person got married and the husband died very shortly after that. Okay, so this is how you are seeing. Okay, our mind is an observer of actuals, decides the actualities. Our mind is an observer of actuals, an inventor or discoverer of possibilities, but not a seer of the occult imperatives that necessitate the movements and forms of a creation. For in the form of universal existence, there are only forces determining results by some balance or the meeting of these powers. We don't see all the powers that are coming. Okay. Now it's a very interesting, I can also give you another very interesting example. Okay, in the beginning, say 100 years ago, we did not know that a storm is coming to us. We did not know. But today, because we have satellite imagery and the satellites are there saying that a depression is occurring somewhere and a cyclone is developing 100 miles east of Pondicherry, now we know the possibility that it's going to attack. But we know it as a possibility. Our knowledge has increased because of a higher level of observation. Yeah? So this is what we are coming to know more and more. The more you rise in consciousness in the spiritual world, the more you know what's going to happen. Okay, and more possibilities are also there. That is how Sri Aurobindo knows that the supermind is a 100% sure thing to manifest, because he can see that happening. But so I read that sentence again. Our mind is an observer. Yes, I've got 1 minute left. Okay. But to the supermental truth conscious, no. Our mind is an observer of actuals, an inventor or discoverer of possibilities, but not a seer of the occult imperatives that necessitate the movements and forms of a creation. For in the front of universal existence, there are only forces determining results by some balance of the meeting of these powers. In the physical world, there are many, many causes, and we see only 1 or 2 causes, we don't see all. The original determinant or determinants, if it or they exist, are veiled from us by our ignorance. But to the supramental truth consciousness, these imperatives would be apparent, would be the very stuff of their seeing and experience. So when we're talking of the true supermind, but even at a spiritual level of consciousness, you can know much more than what you know at our level. In the supramental creative process and the imperative, the nexus of possibilities, the result of many possibilities coming together, the resultant activity would be a single whole, an indivisible movement. The possibilities and actualities would carry in themselves the inevitability of their originating imperative. In other words, the higher you go in consciousness, the more you will know what's going to happen definitely. All their creation would be the body of the truth, which they manifest in determined significant forms and powers of the all existence. That completes the para. Okay. So he has told you what is the origin of the universe What is the process by which it creates? Itself featureless, it creates all the features and it is fully cognizant. It knows fully what it can create. It has the power to create what it wants and it doesn't create something non-existent. It creates only things which are already within itself. This is the crux of the paragraph. Okay. Can we stop here today because I've already gone 1 minute beyond the time. Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. I hope it was clear.
Thank you, Rangada.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Life
it
divine.
is becoming slowly clearer.
Yes.
A very difficult chapter, actually, Rangada. This chapter,
Oh
quite
yes.
complex.
It's one of the most. This one, the cosmic determination and indeterminable, and the Brahman Purusha, Ishvara, Maya, Prakriti,
Shakti.
Shakti. These are the two chapters which are very long and very detailed. But they give you an idea, quite a good idea.
Yes,
But you have to do a
a
lot of.
very clear idea. Yes, Rangada. It
Yes.
is good we decided to do this chapter in detail. It's a
Yes,
lot to understand.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's very difficult and becoming clearer. Yeah.
Clearer, yeah, quite clear. Yes, Rasugti, I agree to that. Thank you, Rangada. Thank you.
Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangada.
328. And we have to read from. Yeah. Au revoir, everybody. Shilpa, I'll talk to you. Our fundamental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rangada, I wanted to ask you something.
Coming, 1 second. Just 1 second. Huh? Our fundamental. Yes. You can talk, and Shilpa, I'll talk to you a little after I finish with Gita, right?
Yes.
Okay. Gita, tell me.
Rangada, where has Sri Aurobindo said about, I think in the origins of Aryan speech, maybe, but where he says e, u, each has a meaning, like e is more going inside, re is like drilling. So,
Yeah.
like vriksha
Isn't
is
That
like,
chapter only.
huh?
Origins of Aryan speech.
He has given all these examples.
Yes, I think so.
Okay,
Yes, given a
somehow
lot.
SABCL had that chapter at the end of Secret of the Veda, but this new one doesn't have.
It is elsewhere. It is elsewhere.
In SABCL, it was part of Secret of the Veda, last chapter.
Yeah, but here it is elsewhere. Okay.
Where is it? Any idea? I am looking for that chapter.
Okay. I'll
Would you,
tell.
Rangada, would you remember? Is more going outside, no?
Uma. What
Yeah,
is it?
is what Sri Aurobindo said. Is it like going outside, no? Like expanding? Is that?
I can't remember. I'll have to check again.
And in the Gita, Krishna says that of all the letters, I am he says.
Yeah. Because that's the origin in that sense.
The beginning.
Yeah. The beginning and the origin. That's in that sense.
And that is different from Om's no?
I think it's the same. Ma, and the origin, I don't know if it's same. You
That
could,
in Mandukya is the manifested universe, no?
is it?
The waking state, no?
If you say it that way, then U and Ma would be the higher states. I
Yes,
don't remember in which order it is there.
Subliminal is U because he says it is the dream state. U.
Okay, yeah.
And Ma he says Prajna, those are the higher states, transcendental.
Okay, so it's in that order. He's going from down to up. Yeah.
So that is different from when he says I am the in Gita, no?
That's
that
right,
means
yeah.
I'm the origin, right?
Okay, if you, that's correct. That's right. It's the opposite.
No, I just wanted to be sure that this he talks about in origins of Aryan speech.
I think so. And actually, the Vedic studies, there is a volume called Vedic Studies.
Okay.
And in that, there is an article also there where there is a great detail. Okay. I'll tell you which one it is there. But if you open that secret, it's called the Vedic Studies, nearly 1,000 pages. Okay,
Okay.
so there's an article. So right now I don't have it in front of me. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. No, I don't have it in front of me now. But the Vedic Studies volume, there is a article which goes into detail.
Is it Vedic and philological studies?
That's right. That's a volume. There is
Okay,
one.
I have it. I have it. And there, which chapter?
That's what I'll have to see.
These
Acha.
are all mandalas and then commentaries on the mandalas.
Go ahead. No, it's not that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Origins of Aryan speech 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And Aryan origins, the elementary roots of language.
That's right. The origin, the roots of language is there, also very interesting. And what's the next one? Chapter?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much. Roots in and all is there.
Okay. Okay. So it's all right.
But ma is measure also, no? Ma. Ma is to measure, no?
That's right. But that depends on the context, na?
Okay.
Not ma, but ma.
Ma, yeah.
Ma is the root. But if you say only ma, then it's you can't say that.
Okay.
Gitanjali, may I have your number? Sorry for interrupting.
Yes, yes, sure.
Shilpa wants your number. Give it to her.
Yes. 98841.
No, just put it in the Skype, this our Skype
Yeah.
this thing, then I will take it from there.
She doesn't have a pen and pencil, that's why.
Yes, at present, no.
No pencil, no pen.
No, if you want, I can get it because
No, no.
I've just typed it.
Yeah,
okay.
There you are.
I will talk to you sometime.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What time you will be free, Geeta? Okay, fine. I will talk to you and text you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am always free also and always occupied also. So it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, Rangata.
Okay, Gita, au revoir. Have a nice day.
Au revoir. Thank you. Bye.
Shilpa,
Yes. Yes.
we can talk about that sacrifice. Yeah. The sacrifice he has already described in great detail.
Rangata, I'm listening too. Is that okay? Sunki. This is Sunki.
Okay, okay.
Again, thank you.
So, sacrifice is the concept of in Gita, the concept of sacrifice is given in great detail. Okay? The normal physical sacrifice that is made in India by pouring ghee into a flame and going on chanting mantras, that is the outward sacrifice, yajna. Okay? But in the Shilpa, you are hearing, na?
I am hearing.
Okay.
Yes, but my maid has come now, so she makes little noises. That's why I have just mute myself.
Now, so you mute yourself and listen. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, what he is saying here is that when we are sacrificing to the divine at our level, okay, what are we sacrificing? The word sacrifice has to be understood in the right way. Okay. So it's a very complicated one. I won't go into too many details, but even if you take it in the most ordinary sense, okay, as I told you, a soldier sacrifices his life for his country. He is giving up something which is precious to himself. Okay, when a elderly brother or a sister in the family sacrifices his own education and starts earning a living because his brothers and sisters have to be educated, he is sacrificing his own education. He starts earning for so he's a sacrifice. Okay. So in that sense, what you are doing in yoga is you are sacrificing, giving up all your limitations to the divine. Okay. You are sacrificing desire. Desire is a very, at our level, it's a very attractive thing for us, but we are giving up desire. We are giving up the demands. We are giving up our ego. We are giving up our attachments. So we are sacrificing to the divine. But we can't do it perfectly. Can we do it perfectly? However much I try to get rid of my desires, I can't. Not that easy. Okay? So our sacrifice is incomplete. So, in a sense, when it is incomplete, the divine will not accept it fully. He will accept it, and if you ask for help, he will give you help. But it is not complete. But when you become perfect, when your consciousness becomes clear, your sacrifice becomes fully acceptable to the divine. But don't think that this is a question of language, okay? It's not that the divine is not satisfied, not in that sense. But it becomes acceptable means now it is complete. You have to take it in that sense. Okay? You should not take it in the sense that when your sacrifice is incomplete, the divine is not accepting you. It's not to be taken in that sense. The divine accepts you, whatever you are, okay? With all your defects and all your everything. There is no cruelty and there is no punishment and there is no anger in the divine. He is only kindness and sweetness and helping all the time. So it's not that he does not accept, but you have to take it in this sense that what you are doing becomes perfect and therefore it is acceptable in this sense that even to you it becomes acceptable. When your sacrifice is incomplete, you yourself will find it unsatisfactory. So you're not accepting in a certain sense. No? That's what is meant. Okay?
So the sacrifice means our own desire. Here in return, we are getting something. No, we are getting some divine power or something if we are sacrificing something. So our motto should, at the time of sacrificing, that we will get something in return should not be there. We just simply give it.
Exactly. There should be no desire even for a return. Although it will come to you. The divine will give you knowledge, the divine will give you power, the divine will give you purity, the divine will give you a clean heart. He will give you all these things. But we should not do it as in exchange. I will give you this if you do this. Okay. Usually it's a business. Okay. We always do that. When we go to a temple or we go to a church or whatever, you say, Lord, please help me. I will do something for you. Okay. So always when you put a good amount of money into the hundi. Hundi is in the temple there is always a Sunki doesn't know what a hundi is. A hundi is a sort of a box into which you put money. Okay, so when you put money into, you are asking for something. Please get my daughter a good husband. Okay, or please make my business successful. You are doing business with the divine. You are asking for something. I am giving you this. You please do.
Tirupati story is totally myth.
Yes, that's right. Our sacrifice is always mixed, okay? But it should not be like that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So shall we stop now today?
Yes. Okay.
Thank
Sunki.
you.
Au revoir, Sunki.
Thank you, Rangata.
Au revoir, Shilpa.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day. Exactly. That's a formula. Okay.